What's up, Bookies.com? Jasmine McKoy here, and we have a special guest, Sean Deveney, an NBA insider and content editor for Heavy.com. Sean, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Jasmine.
Yeah, well, first, talking NBA, we definitely have to talk about everything going on with the Nets, Kyrie, Steve Nash, the whole shebang. I know you're from Boston, so we definitely have to highlight Ime Udoka as well. So let's start first with Steve Nash, and it was a 2-6 start to the season with the Nets. They kind of mutually agreed to let go. What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's probably a relief on Steve Nash's part. He never got to coach the team. He thought he was going to be coaching when he got that job with Brooklyn. Obviously, you had Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant go there in 2019. And since then, it's been sort of one blunder, one mistake, one bad happening off the court, usually after the other. And so it's he's never really gotten a chance. I don't know if Steve Nash will get another chance to coach in the NBA, but certainly his first experience was not pleasant because he just like I say, he just never got to coach the team that I think he thought he was going to coach.
Yeah, and I think I did read somewhere that he also said that the guys were not responding to him either.
Yeah, when you open the season that way, especially they had a really bad loss to Indiana, a team that's trying to tank at this point. And their defense has just been terrible. They've got very good defensive players. There's no way that their defense should be this bad unless the coach's message is not getting through. And I think he could recognize that. And that's why, like I say, I don't think he'll be that disappointed to be out of that job just because, it was clear that whatever he was saying was not getting through to these guys. Maybe that was lost going as far back to Kevin Durant suggesting that that owner Joe Tsai fire Steve Nash. It's always going to be difficult to recover from something like that. And as we saw, Steve Nash just never really did.
And recently, as of yesterday, in the news, Ime Udoka merging as kind of that top coach in line for this job, someone who lives in Boston. You kind of saw everything that went down. Is that a good look for the Nets right now, especially that they're already dealing with stuff with Kyrie?
Yeah, it's difficult because they've been sort of swamped in this controversy about this video that Kyrie Irving has tweeted out, and I guess he went back and deleted it, but still it's been there, and he's defended himself from it, and he hasn't spoken to the media much since. So we haven't heard much from him on the whole subject. So that's sort of looming over the Nets as a whole. And of course, with Kyrie, it goes back a couple of years. It goes back to the 2 weeks that he took off in 2021, and then he didn't get vaccinated last year. We all know what happened with that, and now you've got this. So it's sort of been 3 years of stuff that the Nets have had to deal with off the floor for Kyrie Irving, and that's been difficult. So that's going to be looming out there, no matter what happens with Ime Udoka here. Certainly, you're asking trouble when you hire Ime Udoka. What is it? 2 months after this news came out that he was being suspended by the Celtics for this inappropriate relationship and possibly inappropriate language that was included with that. So that's going to be lingering out there for the Nets now as well. They seem to be almost inviting trouble with this hiring. When you go back though and look, you have to remember that Udoka, before he was with the Celtics, was with the Nets. He was an assistant there, and when they hired Steve Nash, Udoka was a finalist. Like they were thinking, we'll hire Udoka, and then the Nash possibility came up, and they went with him. But there was a significant amount of the portion of that organization that wanted to get Ime Udoka at that time. And so I think the fact that he's out there now, he might not be out there for much longer if another team fires a coach. And so I think the Nets felt a little time pressure in terms of, okay, this is the guy we want. We're going to bring him in despite the baggage that he's bringing.
Exactly. And the Nets, they're 2-6 right now. Another point I actually want to bring up, Lakers 1-5, Golden
Yeah.
State 3-5. These are teams that many would consider that they would be seeing possibly postseason finals. What is that alarming that some of those top teams, besides the Bucks who are 6-0, are struggling a little bit?
Yeah, and it is. I think I put the Clippers in that category as well. I think a lot of people expect the Clippers to be a finals contender, and I believe they're 3-4. Their offense has been disjointed, and it's clear Kawhi Leonard is nowhere near
Yeah.
100% at this point. So they're dealing with some stuff there too. The Lakers, I can't say I'm terribly surprised. Just because watching them in the preseason. And usually you don't put too much stock in preseason games, but it was clear that they just had nothing together. Like their offense wasn't together, their defense wasn't together. They've actually rallied and played better defense here in the regular season, but the offense is still complete and utter mess. We'll see how it works with Russell Westbrook coming off the bench. Maybe that'll be something better for them. But at best, this was always going to be a 500 team. Maybe they could be dangerous in the playoffs should they get there, because you've got LeBron, you've got Anthony Davis, and that's hard to game plan for. But this was never going to be a team that was going to be great in the regular season. So I'm not terribly surprised by them. The Warriors obviously coming off a championship with the Draymond Green stuff that happened. You can maybe make some excuses for them. But certainly they have, especially on the defensive end, they have not looked like themselves. Whatever you want to say about the 3-pointers and what the Warriors have done with that over the last 7 or 8 years, when they win, when they're good, it's because of defense. It's because they're a great defensive team. They switch everything. They make things really difficult for you, and they're not doing that right now.
Now, I want to talk, we kind of started talking about it a little bit, but I want to talk about some futures, with your years of covering the NBA from what you've seen, and it's been interesting so far, start of the season, but, who are some teams, you see, could have a successful postseason?
Yeah, if I'm looking for a dark horse or a sleeper or someone who gives me some value, right now I'm probably looking at the Pelicans. I think that's a team that people are going to start catching on to, especially as if Zion Williamson can stay healthy. That's a big if. That's been there for his whole career. But if he can stay healthy, and even without him though, they've still played well. I think that's something to consider. Brandon Ingram hasn't been healthy, but they're still winning. They're a very deep team. I think they've got really good role players, guys like Trey Murphy, who have stepped up. Herb Jones, we've seen what he's done the last 2 years. So, this is a team that I think has a lot more depth and a lot more staying power than people realize. So that's probably for me a pretty good value pick in terms of what you're seeing out there right now. Obviously Phoenix, I think is going to be there. I think Milwaukee's still probably the best team in the Eastern Conference. It's hard to see any of these other Eastern Conference teams really sneaking up, and maybe Boston, but I think it's still probably Boston and Milwaukee in the East, and then sort of everybody else. But to me, I think New Orleans is a team to keep an eye on.
And is it too early to look at somebody for MVP?
Well, I think you got 3 guys who have separated themselves so far. Obviously, look, you're still going to have Giannis and you're still going to have Jokic. Those guys will be in the conversation, and we'll see how things progress. But right now, I mean, Luka Doncic is probably far and away the favorite for this award, followed by Ja Morant and Jason Tatum. I think right now it's those 3 guys at the top of the list. We're talking about 5 or 6 games here, so obviously we'll have to see how everything plays out. But man, I mean, if Luka's big problem in the past has been he has shown up out of shape and he hasn't gotten off to good starts, he's put that aside here. I mean, he's averaging 36 points, and we know everything he does for Dallas. If the Mavericks can be a good team, if they can be a top 4 team in the Western Conference, and they have a chance to do that, then I think you'd have to take Luka as the MVP. But I think Ja Morant is right there as well. And I mean, Jason Tatum right now is shooting 50% from the field, 40% from the 3-point line, 90% from the free throw line. He's been so efficient, so you have to consider him as well.
As for MIP, I've been eyeing Lauri Markkanen and Tyrese Halliburton. I feel like for Lauri's sake, that trade did him well. I kind of want to know your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, Lowry's been there before. Right now he's healthy, and that's always been the thing is he's had some stretches in Chicago where he was fantastic, and he just wasn't able to maintain it because he wasn't able to stay healthy. So as long as that's the case, that's going to be a little bit difficult for him to maintain. I think another guy that I might throw into the mix is Anthony Simons with Portland. Really came on strong at the end of last year and is playing well now. Damian Lillard's going to be out for a little bit, so he's going to get some more numbers here. And if Portland is a good team, I think that'll help this case as well. So I think Simons is a guy to keep an eye out for as well.
Perfect. And my last question for you, I heard you talk a little about it. You said the word tanking. Victor Wembanyama, 7'4" guy out of France. I know Adam Silver said he wasn't encouraging teams to tank, but obviously, as we all know, many teams, many players even tweeted about him when they saw him play. What are your thoughts on him and, everything else with it?
Yeah, I mean, when you get a guy who's 7'4" and thin, he's got that frame. A lot of people that I talk to, he reminds them of, a Ralph Sampson, a Bill Walton, a Yao Ming, and of course, all those guys. One thing they had in common was foot injury, and so I think you worry about that first. And we've got Chet Holmgren dealing with the same thing now in Oklahoma City. So I think that's the one asterisk that you're a little worried about. But watching him play, I mean, he is so smooth, so athletic. He passes the ball, he handles the ball. At 7'4", he can shoot threes. I mean, he blocks shots. He just does everything. So yeah, there's some teams that are tanking for him, no question. Indiana, Houston, Orlando would love to get their hands on him. And some teams that have set themselves up to tank and haven't done a very good job of it so far, like Utah and San Antonio. These two teams, Utah 6-2, San Antonio 5-2. They're right now they're not doing a very good job of tanking for Victor Wembanyama, but they'll be close to the lottery by the end of the year. So you're going to see 6-7 teams really vying for that number one spot and hoping they can get Victor Wembanyama.
Perfect. Well, Sean, thank you so much for joining us and giving us your wonderful insights. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Jasmine.